what's happening is it's being driven by the AFLPA, and they are now the players themselves. It's broken. They're the ones now pushing for a 22 game. They've rejected the idea of a 17 game season. They want to push for a 22 game, and they want the season to go ahead like nothing's ever happened. They're not interested in a 20% pay cut, which has also been mooted. And so, what's happened is that they've signed up to the CBA last year, and thinking that they were hot shit because they've signed up to getting some share of the pie.
Yeah.
And so here they are now, completely driven by self-interest. Here they are now, concerned, I'm sure, that they're going to get hit in the hip pocket because it's not going to generate the revenue that they thought it was going to generate. And quite
Yeah, go on, Donk. No, go on, Donk. You've been silent for far too long.
Test positive after playing 5 games in a week and rubbing his hands all over a microphone set. So they were sort of wedged, and some pretty dramatic scenes last Thursday, I think it was, that have sort of set off the entire week. That, for me, that was when the match really, the fuse really got lit on lots of this corona stuff. It really became the forefront of people's minds.
Yeah.
And they definitely have been scrambling. I'm as you spoke about self-interest, I'm a little bit self-interested too. So I kind of want them to play 22 games because if I'm going to be stuck at home for a few weeks with my kids, then I want to be able to at least watch some footy and some replays during that time. So dance for me, monkeys, dance. So that's probably not a popular and selfish opinion, but it's mine.
I knew you'd been trying whole of people out there who may well and are likely to have their lives completely ruined over this, and absolutely it'll wreak economic devastation, and it's horrendous. And I think that to be seen to be quibbling at the moment, I mean, all those guys, they're on contract, they're going to get paid, they are going to be far, far from the worst off people, and so it just smacks to me that, as you quite correctly term it, they're very, very tin-eared when you think that the country is going through something quite disastrous, and they think that it doesn't seem to apply to them, and that they cut themselves apart from everybody else and just go on with their life. Because the reality is that even playing with no crowds, how many people are going to be there?
Yeah, well, if you think about probably 22 or 20, 22 players from each side, plus 10 coaches, 10 support staff, and then you put in the official staff. You're getting up around
umpires.
100. Yep.
Now they're saying that people are saying, well, you've got to cancel your weddings and cancel your functions, all this kind of stuff. Well, if it gets to the point where you can't have 100, which is a number they were talking about, where they're going to be done just about cooked anyway. Yep. And so, there's all of this stuff going on, and then they think that they can just skate past it because we want to keep the revenue going, because we want to slice the revenue. I mean, it's just disgusting. And, it makes me laugh that, is Buffhead the head of the Players Association? What's his name?
Paul
Dickhead used to play for us. No, the idiot used to play for
Baltimore.
Now, if you've ever caught him on Twitter, I mean, the term woke doesn't even come close to describing what he's like. He is the most virtue signalling PC. He's just absolutely unbearable on Twitter.
One of the good guys, Pete.
And yet, when it comes to
You're getting double up.
Oh,
that was like I was like I was in Doctor Who.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
And so, Paddy, if it's going to hit Paddy in the hip pocket, oh my God, stuff the community.
Yeah.
Stuff how it looks. I don't care because it's going to hit me in the hip pocket.
Yeah.
Just you know what I mean? He's just a piece of shit.
What I found interesting was that Matty Pavlich, the preceding Players Association player representative, president, whatever, was all in favour of the AFL's move to a 17 round season. So I'm not quite sure why Patrick's got such a different view. Well, I am sure, but it's quite interesting.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, Patrick Dollarsign's got his got some interests he's got to look after. Look, I think all these points are moot, and maybe just to step back for a second. I think it's fairly likely in the next week or so that we're going to go into some way stricter series of lockdowns. And what the AFL is not going to be the one making the call on these things.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And I reckon it's a great point, Doc, you make. Sorry, I'll just quickly, just because I want to back up your point, because I think it's a great point. I think probably what's happening is that Gil's sitting back there hoping that someone will make the decision for him.
Yeah, and there might be financial implications for him with insurance and the way the contracts are paid out and all that other stuff. So you don't, again, it's financial, but it's the difference between quitting and being sacked. There might be a few little things like that. I do get some mail from time to time from people that make decisions, and I have heard that in the next 24, 48 hours that there's probably going to be some serious sort of things happening.
Well, it's just breaking at the moment that the federal government have now issued a warning for Australians to, if you are overseas, get on a plane and get home. So that's breaking.
Yeah.
So they're about to shut the door.
Yeah. Put it this way, guys. If you're sitting here listening at home, I'll go out and stock up on some red wine tonight.
Well, and I think, to be honest with you, it's too little too late, isn't it?
Yeah, it should have been done a week ago.
Isn't it shutting the borders after the coronavirus is bolted, to be honest?
Should have been done a week ago.
Yeah.
No one had the balls to do it.
Yeah.
Well, if you had, the problem too is, and I'm kind of a guy that, and this will surprise most of you on the chat, that I'm a little bit nonchalant with a lot of these sorts of things, and anyone that's met me in person knows how much I take pride in my physical prowess. So sometimes these existential health threats aren't something that's on my radar. I went to Bali a couple of weeks ago, and I started paying a lot more attention to what's happening over a period of time in different countries, and what seems to be is the different countries are getting hit in different ways because of a multitude of factors, but the primary factor is what is the government response rate to the that to spread across the country. So you can expect that case rate to double basically every 3 or 4 days, and that multiplies quite fast. The other thing too is the predicted cases. The actual cases that are recorded through test, what they do is they also ask when you have your symptoms, so they can then backdate what the actual rate was, back in time. Because you actually, if everyone is tested today and they find 100 people, and those 100 people have been sick for 5 days, they actually had it 5 days ago as well. So what you find is that there are, when you have a look at some of these graphs, there's 2 sets of bars, which is the actual to the over. So we might only be reporting 300 cases, but we might actually have 1,000 out there. So take the warning seriously, guys. I'm not really a naysayer and a doomsday guy, but this is pretty serious. And the other problem is when you get to a point where we're going to hit peak infections, that will mean that our health systems will be under a fairly serious amount of pressure. And what's been happening in Italy and other countries that have been overwhelmed is that they have been refusing treatment of people over the age of 80. They have been refusing treatment for people that are either in remission from cancer but not fully cleared, or have serious heart conditions. I've got a pacemaker, so I'm probably not making it off the table if I'm on there at the same time as somebody else. So that's why the social distancing and stopping the chances of you getting the disease in the first place are important. The government, by acting now, is still ahead of what other countries are doing at their same infection rate. So hopefully that can mean that we are not going to experience the same things as some other places, but it's not completely off the cards either.
I think it would
Well, it's
be
been great to have
arrogant.
you back, Donk, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's right. Mate.
I think we've been. It's a combination of arrogance and naivety. I think the manner in which it's been handled over here.
Yeah. There was competing theories on how to deal with the disease too. And I'm sorry, I won't give the 4-minute health lecture that I just gave. But there was in the UK for some time they were looking at doing what they call herd immunity, which means that they would let stronger parts of the population contract the disease and then seriously isolate the most vulnerable. So they were going to hyper-isolate the elderly and, the plus 80s and the seniors, and then leave schools and that to happen so that people could build immunity, like if you get the shingles or, you've got it and you can't get it again. Actually, I think you can get the shingles again, but whatever the first one is, chickenpox. Whereas
I didn't know you had a medical degree. You've been hiding this under a bloody bushel, mate.
I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. So, I also had shingles when I was 8, so I just know that I can get it again.
Right.
But no, I sort of studied public policy, and sometimes, so this herd mentality, and that was what we were looking at doing in different ways. That's why we're leaving schools open, but closing off aged care facilities, if that makes sense. But they worked out that the peak of the epidemic would still be enough to overwhelm the health system 3-1. So it wasn't a practical solution in terms of saving people's lives.
Hey, Pete.
Yeah.
We would, I think, and no disrespect to Nikki, who's, I believe, still on the chat, and so we can't say too nasty things about it. Not that we would. But weren't we looking forward to a streamlined cast this week with not much, not much fat?
Yeah. just going to cut through it, but
yeah.
that's
Look,
unfortunately
no. It's good. Look,
that's all we got.
Let's, I guess, just work out where the lie of the land is. So in terms of AFL football, as it stands, Thursday night is a go. Round 1 is a go, which means that we have a game to talk about shortly. The state leagues have shut down. That includes, according to the SANFL messages I got through today, they've cancelled the under-16s and they've postponed the rest of the competitions, including the women's competition, until the 31st of May. So essentially, the state league is shut down until the 31st of May. The AFL first round will continue as it stands today, but that could change tomorrow, obviously. And assuming it does shut down tomorrow, I mean, where does you, in terms of you guys, where do you guys sit?
Sorry, in terms of
whether you reckon round 1 will go ahead.
No, I don't think it will.
No.
I think I've got a funny feeling. I'm just in the last 5 minutes was that information. I'm seeing a picture that's just crystallising in my mind that Donk, I think that you were on the money. I think maybe Gil knows something, or maybe someone gave him a tap, and I think he's now going to allow this decision to be made by somebody else so he doesn't have to make it, and that may just help with a whole lot of, as you say, contractual issues and the like.
Yep. Yeah. Which is really sad because I pumped hours and hours into my Supercoach preparation this year.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it's so random and it's so minor, but you get to realise how much of a rhythm and routine that we get into with regards to the various sporting seasons. And, we've gone through the pre-season and we've gone through the lead up and we've had the women's competition give us a nice little taste of the action, and you sort of get everything all sorted, and all of a sudden nothing. And you're left to think, what are we going to do now? So look, let's just for a moment, before I move on, did anyone have a chance to see AFL 360 on Monday night?
Is that the one with Slobbo?
I saw some footage.
I got banned. Robbo banned me. That big tick. Big slob. I hate him.
I'm surprised he was sober enough to be able to hit the button, to be honest.
Oh, mate. What a fucking alcoholic.
That
Coming
was
from a massive alcoholic.
that was. I mean, it's getting to. There's always been, little jokes and all the rest of it, and occasionally he's turned up after a long lunch and all the rest of it. But how does it's such a contrast between Jared Waitley and Mark Robinson on that show? But I'm finding it increasingly unwatchable.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I find Jared a bit sickly, to be honest. I actually don't enjoy his takes on things. I think they're just so superficial and so glib. And then you've got Slobbo that thinks he's, the world's greatest gift to intellectual football, who, can barely string a sentence together. And, anyway, I'm not a big Slobbo fan, as you might be attest, but they are, what's the old couple? Yeah, they're the old couple.
Oh, absolutely. Look, just before we move on, I just need to apologise. I have had some audio problems tonight, particularly through the YouTube and Facebook feeds, but that seems to have sorted itself out pretty much. For people watching on YouTube or Facebook, you'll see that all the comments are now feeding through on that stream, which is great. One of the reasons I'd love the Spreaker guys to get on Discord, either through Discord if you have it or via our website, is that we'll then incorporate everyone's chat into the one place, which means that people on Facebook, YouTube and Spreaker will be able to interact with each other's comments. So if there is anyone that would like, and I don't want to force you guys, but if there is anyone that's currently listening on Spreaker that would like, even just for a couple of minutes, just to go over to the website and see if they can get in. You'll be able to listen to the cast. The cast is actually streaming on our website, and there's a chat box there that you can just enter any old random username that you like and hook into our Discord server. And not only will you be able to interact directly with those on YouTube and Spreaker, YouTube and Facebook, but we'll also see you on our Discord server, which is what we use to broadcast. So free toilet paper to the first person who gets on there, I reckon.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the Swannies, apparently 420.
Yeah, well, would have been good. I've got. I thought I was going to get away with my wife's 50th function pretty cheaply because a whole lot of people go on the footy, but then all of a sudden they weren't going to the footy, and so then they were able to come and had to pay for them. But now it could be cancelled anyway. But anyway,
cap it, mate.
I got people that weren't coming because their kids' bloody cricket final was on, and that's not on now. So suddenly my costs are blown out. Anyway,
We started GoFundMe.
Yeah, that's right, Sydney. Look, I think that this was a really let's just for the sake of the exercise, good idea, Fiend. I think this was going to be an incredibly important game, and I know we always say that about round one, but I think it was just going to be so important that we had a win for round one, just purely because round 2, 3, and 4 looks unachievable. I guess the showdown's always 50-50, regardless of where the teams are at, but I just don't think that we've got enough to get across Port in a showdown. I think it's the away showdown. So I think that this was an incredibly important game to just to have one win on the board in the first month. And so I think that we would have been good enough to overpower Sydney at home. I think that we would probably hit the ground running. I think that we might just sort of run out of beans sort of halfway through the year. But so anyway, it was a really important game for us.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think you're 100% correct. It was our first opportunity and our biggest opportunity to get a win in the early bit. And I think Sydney aren't going to be very much chop. I am a bit worried about, after watching us get sort of steamrolled by the Gold Coast and Melbourne in different ways. And I think we've not only got a young side, but we're trying to play football in a different way. And I think we're going to be in a fair bit of pain this year. Look, and I don't mind if that's a style that is, is a better style than we played over the last couple of years, and means when we're good at it, we're going to be unstoppable. Then, I'm happy to go through a bit of pain as long as I see a lot of kids getting played. As long as a few mugs don't get games that I'm really worried they're going to get too many, especially in a reduced game season. I think every game's important, so I don't think we can be handing out gold passes to old blokes that probably don't provide for our future.
Oh, we just can't. Nix is talking. He's mentioned this afternoon on radio that he's expecting at least one debutant. I mean, I would suspect that's either Mackesy or maybe Ben Crocker.
Yep.
They may play both. I think Ben Crocker, out of everyone during the pre-season, has been the one that's really, I think, impressed himself upon the club and, really stuck his hand up and said, pick me. He seems to be versatile. He's good on the deck. He can take a mark, and he seems to have a good sense for goals. And according to the scuttlebutt around the club, he's an amazing worker in terms of doing the hard yards. So he seems to be the one out of all of them that has really hit the ground running since he's been at the club.
Yeah, I think he's definitely put in a fairly decent effort. But the thing that I forgot last year was Ben Davis got a game. So whether they're not talking about him as obviously as a debutant, because he did debut last year, but he only played the one, in a baptism of fire at Cardinia Park. I wonder whether, if we see Chase Jones, Ben Davis, Fogarty, McCasey and Keys, that's still only 10 debutants, but, a whole lot of people, not very much game time. So that'll be okay for me.
Yeah, great, Donk. I think that you've got a couple of kids in there that have only played a handful of games. In Benny Davis's case, just the one. And I'm pretty sure I've been really happy with Ben in the pre-season. And I think that I had a sense that he was being pushed forward. This was his time. He was mentioned 2 or 3 times by the coach, just when discussing training in the early days, and then I thought that, for the role that he played, I thought that he did some really good things in the trials, and so I've no doubt that he would have played, and I think he's ready to go, and he showed some real talent. I mean, there was a point against Gold Coast when they were kicking to the left of screen. I can't remember which quarter it was, but he just fended off. There must have been three to four players going for him, and the way that he was able to just find that space, and a couple of other really nice things he did. There was a kick to the right of screen. There was a beautiful kick where he worked down to half back, and he just delivered a beautiful 40-metre kick across the middle and really opened up the guts. And that was the start of that chain that ended up being a goal out the back to I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
Tom Lynch kicked it to someone. I can't remember who it was. But that started with Ben Davis. He had the guts to and the skill to execute and really open up the game. So anyway, just some really good signs from him. And as you say, Chase hasn't played many games. Crocker may well be a debutant for the club, but I would be very, very surprised if Mackesy wouldn't have been selected on the basis of the way that he played in that last game.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, we've got Black Crow has joined us on Discord, so thanks, mate, for coming on. We've got Nicky's tried to claim some toilet paper, but no, forget about that. That's not happening. And we've got some listeners on Facebook and YouTube as well. So if anyone else, here we go. BB has joined us. He hasn't got any sound. Well, we seem to have some audio problems tonight. I have no idea what's going on. It's dropping in and out for various platforms. So
your speaker's turned on, BB.
Yeah, anyway, let's continue. So it's yeah, no, sorry, I'm just reading the screen. So look, it's I still don't think we'll play, to be honest with you. But it's still an exciting time to be starting this season with some fresh blood. Maddie's joined us on Discord as well, so that's all good. It'll be good to see some new faces. I think the club and the supporters need to see some new faces. I think you're right, Pete. I think Maxi has to get a run. I couldn't see any reason why you wouldn't play him.
No, I think the only question would be, as you raised last week, whether you persist with him in defence or whether you just say, look, actually, we saw a few things we liked last week in attack, and we're going to rotate him and Darcy through there, and try and build a team around those two guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bit of tall timber, nice little spine coming along. Riley O'Brien, even though he looks like a baby giraffe with a busted hip, he's only 24 and can actually tap it to one of our players. So we're looking up and good through the middle.
What is it about our ruckman that they play a season and they knock it out of the park, and then all of a sudden they age about 50 years in the off season? What's going on with that?
A lot of one-on-one time with Matthew Clark, I'm assuming.
It just seems to be endemic. It happened to Sauce. He had a couple of good years, and then he turned into a geriatric. And poor old Radar, he's already hit the skids, and he's only a year in.
I think the thing that I was most looking forward to seeing, and just to see how it went, because I did like the look of it a few times in the pre-season, and that was the movement or the movement of Smith, Seedsman and Atkins to more time around the ball, and more time in the middle for those three guys to play off the contest slightly and to actually use their, because you love him or hate him, Atkins together with the other two who are a little bit more popular are probably the three best users of the ball on their day in the side, and I certainly would rather see the ball in those three guys' hands than in either of the Crouches. And it would, I think it would have been really interesting to see how that went. I think that there was some merit to that.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people got a lot of hate towards Atkins. I thought that he had a really poor start to 2018, like most of us did. But I thought that after he had a bit of a spell there, I reckon, around 15, 16 for a few weeks. And I thought that he came back with a different intensity. And last year, even though I don't think he played to his best, I don't think he dropped to that floor that he'd had during his real lull. So I'm just hoping he can play with a bit more consistency and, build in a few of those more, the games where he's not looking like he's not there. I don't mind some of the brain fade stuff because he tries different things, but if you can cut down his sort of bird brain moments down by 20% and deliver the consistency, then I think we've got a pretty fine wingman.
I think that I agree with everything you said, then, Donk, right up to that last word where you said wingman. I think that the intent is to get him away from the wing, and that's what it looked to me. Roger. I don't know whether you thought whether you noted that, Fiend, but they look very much to be rotating Smith, Seedsman, and Atkins with a little bit of time on the wing, but primarily running them through the actual midfield. And so those guys were taking centre bounces and clearances, and so it just looked to me that there was an intent to get our better users around the ball and not have them sitting out on the wings or half back.
Yeah, I think so too. I just think they've got to be amongst it this year. We need pace through that midfield, and we both know that we all know that the Crouchers aren't going to deliver it, and they've both just Seedsman and Smith with their long kicking, just their ability to break a line, both in terms of their pace and also their kicking. It's just invaluable. You can't have them on the outer. You've got to have them in amongst it, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And you can't have, it's not just, and you're right in saying it's a pace issue, but it's also just a using issue as well. And they just don't use the ball well enough. And so I would rather just see those three users around the ball. But anyway, hopefully that's something we'll get to see eventually. But that was something that I was certainly looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't think Sydney are going to be terrible. I don't think they're going to. I think they're in a similar position to us, and maybe haven't. I'm not quite sure what their list looks like this year. They've had a bit of turnover though, so you're right, Peter. What you said earlier on, it was an opportunity, and well, at this stage, it still is an opportunity for us to get a W on the board, which would be a fillip for the team. But yeah, it's hopefully it goes ahead, because I think all you boys have played footy, and you all get through a pre-season, you work pretty hard, and you get to the end of it and you want to just sort of get out and play. So it'd be a fair anticlimax for the team as well as the fans if the thing got called off.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. 100%.
So it's a bit hard. We don't have teams yet, so it's hard to talk specifics. Cam and I will be around on probably Saturday morning if there is a game to do a rev up and do a bit of a more detailed preview. But just one question though, I'm not sure. Is Buddy playing, or is he out injured at the moment?
Oh, I'm pretty sure he's out.
Yeah, he's out.
I thought.
He
Yeah.
won't be playing. I mean, if they were playing on Sunday, he'd be out.
Yeah. Now, did you guys get a hold of the training stream this morning?
No, I was I've been stuck in meetings since about 7 o'clock, so I was out.
Yeah. Nikki mentioned in the chat, and I agree with her, I just caught a couple of minutes, but Nick's was doing a fair bit of work with Brodie Smith, and as Nick pointed out, it looked like they were actually focusing on him getting some close attention. I reckon, his exposed form in the couple of games in the community series will probably get other coaches' ears pricking up and looking at ways to curb his influence. And we did see last year a couple of times that when Smithers got sat on, he didn't cope with it terribly well. Is that a fair call?
He's never coped with it, Fane.
Yeah,
they were tagging him years ago when he was when he was in good form, when he got his All Australian year 2014, and we remember the famous Brenton Sanderson thing about where he suggested that he should be tagged.
Yeah,
remember that?
Yeah, and everyone took him up on
it. And Brodie's never ever copped a tag. He just doesn't deal with it at all.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting for him, particularly at this stage in his career.
Yep.
But hopefully we can, it's got to be at the end of the day with a tag. If you've got one key player in there that is doing a lot of damage, you're quite easily covered with a tag. But if you've got two or three, then it becomes more problematic for the opposition. So this is where Brad Crouch and Seedsman and even young Chase Jones, when he runs through there, and these blokes, this is where they've got to step up, because if they're going to sit back and think, Smithers had a really good pre-season, he's going to get 30 touches and 500 metres gained or whatever, and just sit back, then it's not going to work. They need to be able to recognise when he's getting sat on a bit and A, try to free him up a bit, which we haven't traditionally been good at doing, and B, sharing some of the load.
Yeah. What I'm actually hoping to see out of our mid-group this year is not be so flat-footed in everything they do. They always seem to be on their heels and reacting to what other sides are doing. They're never moving and being dynamic and trying to create opportunities off the ball and doing all that stuff. And I lay a lot of that at the feet of Scott Camporale running out of ideas in about mid-2014. And, I don't think there's any surprise that, I don't really think any Crows player has dealt well with the tag over the last decade. And now that man has decided to leave our club on his own choices, then I'm hoping that we actually see a bit of more dynamic play through our midfield, and not just playing to make par, but actually trying to win the tournament.
Well, I guess time will tell in terms of whether we even get a game. I don't think there's much.
It's so weird. I talk about this game like it's not going to happen. Though.
I know it's actually bizarre. I mean, in my head, I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm finding it really difficult to actually talk about because it was just it's like we're talking about a fantasy or something. In any case,
we'll have to. If there's no footy for 22 weeks, we'll have to do something for the loyal casters out there that are listening, and maybe pick a game from history to make sure we do some homework, watch it over the weekend, and then review it. At the next episode.
It's interesting you should say that, Donkey, because I've had a couple of ideas in that regard. If the season does get called off, and this is why I'm trying to get people to hook into Discord. Because I can stream in Discord, and there's an opportunity for me to maybe stream something off YouTube that might resemble something like the 97 or 98 grand final, or something like that that we can all have a look at. The other thing that I thought of, and I don't know whether this is a go or not, but maybe a few of us should get a copy of AFL Evolution when it comes out, and we'll actually have a season of AFL with other podcasts representing the Crows, and they can represent whoever they want. Maybe we'll get Macca 19 from Port and we can have a showdown, and we can live stream the AFL Evolution game to our loyal fans. I don't know whether that's got any legs or not.
What a ripping idea.
We should just have a virtual season.
Yeah.
Well,
22 showdowns.
Yeah, that's right. Well, AFL Evolution 2 is coming out at the end of April, and I had a look on Steam during the week to see what the original version, which is now 2 or 3 years old, and they're still selling it on Steam for $70. It wasn't worth $70 in the first place. I thought, nah, sorry, I'm not going to spend $70 on that piece of rubbish. But the next one might be all right, and I reckon I might actually see if I can get an opponent teed up from another podcast, and if the season doesn't go ahead as planned, and we might just live stream a game of AFL Evolution, CrowCast versus Port Fan Radio or something. I don't know. I got no idea. Anyway, and if any of our listeners are actually gamers that can actually play the game, then feel free to step up, because I'm bloody hopeless. Just ask my son. Just quickly on the AFLW, it was a bit of a disappointing result. The girls were in it for a while, but in the end, I just think they're underdone and a bit cooked in general. Did you guys catch the game?
No, didn't.
Donk, you wouldn't have seen it from up there. No, look, I mean, Erin played. She's a little underdone. Nikki, if you were on, I'm sure you'd have some more insight. But I just felt it was our last hurrah. We needed to beat the Giants to have any chance whatsoever with 2 games left in the minor rounds to have a sniff. And it looks to me like we're going to bow out from our premiership defence in 2020. That being said, who knows when the finals are going to be played for AFLW as well. So that's difficult for the girls, obviously, because they're already into their season, and to be so close to finals, and and then to have to basically break all that momentum, and what it does as well, in that, assuming that there is a 6-week break before they can get back in and play the last round or the finals, it gives injured girls a chance to get fit. So they're going to be hitting those finals in a couple of months' time, you would imagine, with fit lists. And thanks for your input. Leave me hanging, bloody hell.
I thought you were a roll, mate. Sorry.
So anyway, yeah, look, it's going to be Nikki in the chat is screaming, stop passing it to Erin when she's got 3 players on her. Well, under normal circumstances, she could probably cope with 3 players, but she's clearly very underdone. So I don't think we had any expectations of the girls this season, given the knee injuries and the other injuries that we've had through the squad. They've done all right, but they've really looked a shadow of themselves this year, and it just shows in that competition that star power, I think, does count. I think, with all due respect to the girls, I think the talent pool drops away still a little quickly. There's probably still not quite the depth that you would hope for. As we've 100%,
seen, the game breakers can break the game quite easily when they want to.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but best of luck to the girls for the rest of the season, whether it be the next 2 weeks or, whether we're talking about it in a few weeks' time. Apart from anything else, there's still dual premiers, so no one can take that away from them. Now,
that's right. Year on, year off. Year on, year off.
Yeah, I think so. Now, look, all right, so it's been a very disjointed cast tonight with audio problems and me trying to organise people to do what I want and all the rest of it. So I do apologise for that. In addition, it's been just weird because of the circumstances. But so thanks everyone who's stuck with us. If there is a game this weekend, Cam and I will be on to do a preview via the Rev Up, so keep an eye out for that. I'll tweet that out and put it on Facebook when we post it up. And if there is a game, we will also be back on Sunday night with the first episode of the Rap Show, which will be Sunday night at 7:30. If we've got anything to talk about, and we will only broadcast if there has been a Crows game. So even if the Tigers and Carlton play on Thursday night and then they call the rest of the round off, we won't be on. We only want to talk about the Crows. So keep an eye out for that. If there is a Crows match on the weekend, we will be on Sunday night as well. Having said all of that, irrespective, and you boys, you can take it in turns or you can do whatever you like, and Nicky can come on and Macca and whatever, but we will continue every Tuesday night regardless of whether there's a footy season or not. I think we'll all be looking for a bit of a laugh and a bit of a break from whatever's going on in the wider world. So and we'll find stuff.
And we'll need to hear stories of people out there doing the Walking Dead runs.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to just say that I'm down to 3 toilet rolls, and it's starting to become a critical issue. So if anyone out there wants to chuck a toilet roll my way, I don't normally buy in bulk. And I happened to buy a big packet a couple of weeks ago. I thought, this will see me through until Christmas. And things are getting a little bit willing in the Phoenix household now. My son came home the other day and he said, "Is this all the toilet paper we got?" And I said, "Yeah, mate. Use it sparingly." So look, but no, our thoughts go out to everyone who's affected with the coronavirus. I know a lot of casual employees are struggling. I know a lot of people in the retail sector are struggling. Obviously it goes without saying that great respect to the people that are working in the medical industry at the moment. I reckon if you were a doctor or a nurse, it'd be like standing on a beach and you've just seen all the water suck back and you're just waiting for the tsunami to come in. I reckon that's how I'd be feeling if I was a doctor or a nurse at the moment. So great respect to them. Great respect to everyone who's dishing out food to all the numbnuts at Woolies and Coles and wherever else. I saw someone got stabbed today at a Woolies. Someone got stabbed today at a Woolies. Can you believe it?
Really?
Yes.
That's outrageous.
One of the staff was collecting trolleys. I think it was in northern New South Wales, collecting trolleys, and he randomly just got stabbed. Well, what is going on?
Yeah, I saw someone got hit he got belted with a stick in a Victorian one. That's obviously not a stabbing. Yeah, look after the staff, guys. And if you see someone copping it at a supermarket while you're out there, go give them, go look after the staff because, they're quite often kids or, people that are probably never thought they'd be in a situation like this in their lives. And, they're just trying to do their best and they don't deserve anyone turning into a monster and trying to have a crack at them.
Agreed. And lastly, Pete, your lovely wife, who I have great respect for despite the fact that I've never met, she had a massive dig at me on Twitter. She had a crack.
Oh, I did see that, yeah. She had a real crack. Yeah, she doesn't hold. She doesn't hold back. And,
Yeah.
If you reckon, try being me.
No, but fair play,
wild.
fair play, Mrs. Peter J. But I still think that they could do it, and she knows what I'm talking about. All right, I reckon we're gonna leave it there. What do you reckon, guys? It's been an interesting, difficult night. Thanks to everyone who stuck with us on the various platforms. I think by the end of it, we've actually done it right. We've sorted out the Discord. We've sorted out the audio. All in time for a no-show for round one. So anyway, keep an eye on Twitter, keep an eye on Facebook. I'll keep you up to date with when we're on. If there's no games, as I said, we'll be back next Tuesday night. Otherwise, we'll be previewing the game on Saturday and wrapping it up on Sunday night. So until then, everyone, please stay safe. Thank you very much for all your patronage, and we'll see you next time we're on.
Cheers, guys.
I don't.